CapCut TTS, script. Maya Winters was sorting through a decade of medical records when her phone vibrated with a number she hadn't seen in 15 years. She ignored it, focused on organizing patient files for the rural clinic where she'd spent the past 12 years as head nurse. The phone buzzed again, more insistent this time. Maya glanced at the screen, her stomach tightening when she saw the same unfamiliar number with a Seattle area code. Nobody from Seattle ever called her. Not anymore. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. When Maya finally answered, the voice on the other end was formal. Detached. I'm looking for Maya Winters? This is Dr. Elliot Chen from Northwest Memorial. Speaking, Maya replied, her voice neutral despite the sudden hammering in her chest. I'm calling about Olivia Blackwood. She's been admitted to our care and has requested we contact you. Maya's hand went numb around the phone. That name, a ghost from another life. There must be some mistake. Olivia Blackwood doesn't exist. The silence on the other end stretched uncomfortably before Dr. Chen spoke again. Miss Winters, I assure you she exists. She's in our oncology ward, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She doesn't have much time, and she's been quite insistent about seeing you. Maya stared at the organized files on her desk, each one representing a patient she'd cared for in this small Montana town where she'd rebuilt her life, where nobody knew what she'd left behind. Doctor, I don't know what she told you, but Olivia Blackwood has been erased from official records for 15 years. According to the United States government, that person doesn't exist. Yet she's lying in my hospital, asking for you with her dying breath. Dr. Chen replied evenly. She said you'd say exactly that. She also said to tell you that Belgrade is still waiting. Maya's breath caught. Those 3 words, a code only 2 people in the world would understand. The room seemed to tilt slightly as 15 years of carefully constructed normalcy began to crumble around her. I'll be there tomorrow, Maya said, hanging up before the doctor could respond. That night, Maya stood in front of her bedroom closet, staring at the false back wall she hadn't opened since moving to Montana. Her fingers found the hidden latch by memory, revealing a small compartment containing a metal lockbox. Inside lay items from another life, a passport with a name that wasn't Maya Winters, a small caliber pistol wrapped in oiled cloth, and a thumb drive secured in a waterproof case. Maya held the thumb drive, turning it over in her fingers. The physical weight was nothing compared to the burden of memories it carried. She had sworn never to return to that life, to the person she had been. But Olivia was dying, and Belgrade was still waiting. The 5-hour drive to Seattle the next morning gave Maya too much time with her thoughts. Memories she'd buried resurfaced like bodies in a flood, training exercises in remote locations, missions that officially never happened, the team that had become her family until everything went wrong. Northwest Memorial loomed like a fortress. As Maya parked her sensible sedan in the visitor lot, she caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. Shoulder-length brown hair streaked with early gray, lines around her eyes that hadn't been there 15 years ago. She barely recognized herself from the woman in her memories. That had been the point. At the reception desk, Maya hesitated. I'm here to see Olivia Blackwood. The nurse checked her computer. Are you family? No, Maya said. Just an old friend. Room 412. Dr. Chen asked to be notified when you arrived. The oncology ward was quiet except for the steady beeping of monitors and the soft footfalls of nurses moving between rooms. Maya paused outside 412, steeling herself for what she might find. The woman in the hospital bed barely resembled the Olivia that Maya remembered. Her once athletic frame had withered, cheekbones jutting sharply beneath paper-thin skin. The dark hair Maya had envied was gone, leaving her scalp exposed and vulnerable. But when Olivia's eyes opened, that intense blue-gray that had always seen too much. Maya knew instantly that, despite everything, this was undeniably her former teammate. "They said you wouldn't come," Olivia whispered, her voice a rasp. "They were wrong," Maya replied, moving closer to the bed. "They've been wrong about a lot of things." A ghost of a smile crossed Olivia's face. "Like my existence?" "The official record says you died in Belgrade." Everyone believed it. I believed it. That was the point, Olivia said. After everything went sideways, disappearing seemed like the only option. Maya pulled a chair closer to the bed. "You could have told me you were alive. Would you have kept the secret?" Olivia's gaze was steady, challenging, even as her body failed her. "You were always too honest for our line of work, Maya. It's why I trusted you. It's also why I couldn't risk contacting you." The room fell silent, except for the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. Outside, rain began to patter against the window, the Seattle sky darkening with afternoon clouds. "Why now?" Maya finally asked. "After 15 years of being dead, why reach out when you're actually dying?" Olivia's fingers plucked restlessly at the thin hospital blanket. "Because I have something that belongs to you. Something I took that night in Belgrade, when everything fell apart." Maya felt a chill race down her spine. "The data, not just the data," Olivia said. "The truth. About why the mission was compromised. About who gave the order to leave you behind." Maya's hands tightened on the arms of the chair. "I wasn't left behind. I made it out. Barely. With 3 bullets in you and half the Serbian underground hunting you." Olivia's breathing grew labored. "The extraction team was called off, Maya. Someone wanted you silenced permanently." The monitor beside the bed beeped. A warning as Olivia's oxygen levels dropped. A nurse appeared in the doorway, eyeing Maya suspiciously before approaching to adjust Olivia's oxygen flow. "Perhaps you should keep the visit short," the nurse suggested. "Ms. Blackwood needs her rest." "She stays," Olivia said with surprising force. The nurse frowned but left the room, promising to return soon. When they were alone again, Olivia reached for Maya's hand. Her fingers were ice cold. "I don't have much time left. The cancer's spread to my liver. 2 weeks at most, probably less." "I'm sorry," Maya said, and meant it despite everything. "But I still don't understand what you want from me now." "I need you to finish what we started," Olivia said. "The information we recovered in Belgrade, it was bigger than either of us knew. Names, operations, black funds moving through shell corporations. Evidence of things that would put very powerful people in prison. That was 15 years ago," Maya countered. "The statute of limitations, not for treason," Olivia interrupted. "Not for conspiracy to commit murder. Not for the things they did to cover their tracks." She squeezed Maya's hand with surprising strength. "I've spent 15 years gathering more evidence, connecting dots, building a case no one could dismiss. But I can't finish it. You can." Maya pulled her hand away, standing abruptly. "I'm a nurse in rural Montana now. I have patients who depend on me, a life I've built from nothing. You're asking me to throw that away, to put myself back on the radar of people who once wanted me dead." "I'm asking you to honor the oath we took," Olivia said. "To protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. They're still out there, Maya, still in positions of power. And what they did in Belgrade, they're still doing." Maya turned toward the window, watching raindrops trace crooked paths down the glass. She thought about her small house with its garden, the clinic where she knew every patient by name, the quiet life she'd fought so hard to create. "Belgrade was a lifetime ago," she said softly. "Was it?" Olivia challenged. "Or have you just been hiding from who you really are?" The Maya I knew wouldn't walk away from the truth, no matter how comfortable her life had become. The words stung because they carried the weight of truth. Maya had built a life of service in Montana, but she'd also been hiding. From her past, from responsibility, from the person she'd once been. What exactly are you asking me to do? There's a storage locker in Tacoma, Olivia said. Everything I've gathered is there. Files, recordings, the original data from Belgrade, plus everything I've collected since. The key is in my personal effects. The login credentials for my secure server are encoded in a book I've kept with me. She paused, fighting for breath. You'll need help. I've made arrangements for that too. What kind of arrangements? You'll see. A shadow of the old Olivia showed through as her lips curled in a familiar half-smile. I've had 15 years to plan. This, Maya, trust me one last time. Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway, his expression grave. Ms. Blackwood needs to rest now. You can come back tomorrow. Maya looked at Olivia, suddenly aware that there might not be a tomorrow. I need time to think about this. Time is the one thing I can't give you, Olivia whispered. They'll know I contacted you. Once I'm gone, though. Move quickly to contain any loose ends. Dr. Chen cleared his throat impatiently. I'll come back tomorrow, Maya promised, gathering her purse. Maya, Olivia called as she reached the door. The night nurse brings me my personal items at 8. I read for an hour before sleep. Maya nodded, understanding the hidden message. She would return tonight at 8, not tomorrow. In the hospital cafeteria, Maya nursed a cup of bitter coffee, her mind racing. The past she'd worked so hard to escape was rapidly catching up to her. Her phone chimed with a text from the clinic. Director asking when she'd return. Normal life, calling her back. Maya stared at the message, unable to formulate a response that wouldn't feel like a lie. At 7:45, Maya made her way back to the oncology floor, timing her arrival to coincide with shift change when the nurses would be distracted with handoff reports. She slipped into Olivia's room unnoticed. Olivia was awake, holding a worn paperback, The Count of Monte Cristo. She looked up as Maya entered, a smile of relief crossing her gaunt features. You came back. I said I would. Maya settled into the chair beside the bed. But I haven't decided anything yet. Yes, you have, Olivia said with quiet certainty. You just haven't admitted it to yourself. She held out the book. Page 247. The third paragraph is marked. Maya took the book, finding the page where a corner had been discreetly folded. The third paragraph was underlined faintly in pencil, a passage about revenge and justice being two sides of the same coin. In the margin, written in a code they'd developed years ago, were server credentials and a password. Memorize it, Olivia instructed. The book stays with me. Maya studied the code until she was certain she had it, then returned the book. The storage locker key? In my personal effects bag. Olivia nodded toward a small clear plastic bag in the bedside drawer. My necklace. The pendant opens. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Maya retrieved the bag when Olivia nodded that it was safe to do so. Inside was a simple silver chain with what appeared to be a St. Christopher medal. Maya examined it carefully, finding the hidden seam that allowed the pendant to split, revealing a tiny storage locker key nestled inside. Tacoma Public Storage on Harbor View Drive, Olivia said. Unit 1154. Maya pocketed the key, her heart racing. Just holding it made this real in a way that conversation hadn't. What happens after I get the files? There's a name in my contacts. Eleanor Voss, former Justice Department, now in private practice. She's been waiting for this evidence for years. She'll know what to do with it. And the help you mentioned? Who exactly have you arranged to assist me? A shadow crossed Olivia's face. Someone we both knew. Someone who also has a stake in the truth coming out. Before Maya could press further, the door opened and a night nurse entered with medications. Maya stepped back, pretending to be a casual visitor while the nurse administered Olivia's evening pain medication. Visiting hours ended at 8, the nurse said pointedly. I was just leaving, Maya assured her. To Olivia, she added, I'll see you tomorrow. Olivia's eyes, already growing heavy from the medication, locked with Maya's. No, you won't, she whispered. This is goodbye, Maya. Do what needs to be done. Maya felt a lump form in her throat. Despite the years of silence, despite the betrayal she still didn't fully understand, saying goodbye to Olivia felt like losing a limb. They had been more than teammates once. They had been sisters in everything but blood. I won't let you down, she promised, the words inadequate for everything unsaid between them. Outside the hospital, Maya sat in her car, the key heavy in her pocket. She could drive back to Montana right now, return to her safe, predictable life. Pretend this day had never happened. But Olivia's words echoed in her mind. Have you just been hiding from who you really are? Maya started the engine and pointed her car toward Tacoma. The storage facility was open until midnight, plenty of time to retrieve whatever Olivia had been guarding for 15 years. As she merged onto the interstate, Maya checked her rearview mirror, an old habit she hadn't needed in Montana. The highway behind her was clear, but something told her it wouldn't stay that way for long. The storage facility was deserted when Maya arrived. A board attendant barely glanced at her ID before buzzing her through the security gate. Unit 1154 was at the far end of the complex, partially hidden by a row of larger units. The key slid into the lock smoothly. Maya hesitated, knowing that opening this door meant fully committing to whatever came next. Drawing a deep breath, she turned the key and raised the rolling door. Inside, she had expected filing cabinets or boxes of documents. Instead, she found a pristine workspace, a desk with a high-end laptop, a small server, external hard drives, and a single filing cabinet. On the wall hung a large corkboard covered with photos, documents, and red string connecting various elements. It looked like something from a detective show, except Maya recognized some of the faces pinned to the board: former supervisors, government officials, people who had been part of their shared past. In the center of the corkboard was a photo of their team from 15 years ago, 5 young faces grinning at the camera during a rare moment of downtime. Maya touched the image of herself, remembering the confident agent she'd once been. Beside her in the photo, arm thrown casually around her shoulders, was Olivia. And on Olivia's other side, his face half turned as if sensing danger, even in that moment of peace, was Daniel Reed. Hello, Maya. The voice from the darkness behind her sent ice through Maya's veins. She spun, reaching instinctively for a weapon she no longer carried. A man stepped forward from the shadows at the back of the unit. Older, grayer, with a scar that hadn't been there 15 years ago cutting across his left cheek. But unmistakably Daniel Reed, the 3rd member of their core team, the man who'd been reported killed in action 3 months after Belgrade. Daniel, Maya whispered, her mind struggling to process this second resurrection. You're supposed to be dead. So is Olivia, he replied with a grim smile. Seems like death didn't take for either of us. He nodded toward the open unit door. You should close that. What we need to discuss isn't for public consumption. Maya lowered the rolling door, her thoughts racing. Did you know that Olivia was alive all this time? Not until 3 years ago, Daniel admitted. She found me in Bangkok where I was living under a new identity. Told me she needed my help finishing what we started in Belgrade. And you just agreed, after everything that happened? Daniel's expression hardened. After I learned the truth about who betrayed us? Yes. He gestured toward the corkboard. The mission in Belgrade was compromised from the start, Maya. We were never meant to make it out with that data. You getting shot wasn't an accident. It was Plan B after the ambush failed to kill all of us. Maya sank into the desk chair, the weight of his words settling over her. Who would want us dead badly enough to arrange something like that? The same people who are still in power today, Daniel said, pointing to several photos on the board. People who've built careers and fortunes on the back of operations that would put them in prison if exposed. Belgrade was just one piece of a much larger puzzle. And Olivia has been putting that puzzle together all these years? Daniel nodded. She needed to disappear to do it. The official story that she died covering your escape gave her the perfect cover to work undetected. Well, I thought I'd lost everyone, Maya said bitterly. While I rebuilt my life believing I was the only survivor. Would you have stayed hidden if you'd known the truth? Daniel challenged. Or would you have gone looking for answers, putting yourself right back in their crosshairs? Maya had no answer for that. The Maya of 15 years ago would have pursued the truth relentlessly, regardless of the danger. The Maya of today, the nurse who grew vegetables and volunteered at the animal shelter, she wasn't so sure. Olivia's dying, she said finally, for real this time. I know. Pain flickered across Daniel's face. Cancer doesn't care about unfinished business. That's why she finally reached out to you. We're running out of time to make this right. Make what right? Expose a 15-year-old conspiracy? Bring down people who've probably covered their tracks a dozen times over. Daniel moved to the laptop, opening it and entering a password. Olivia didn't just collect evidence about Belgrade. She tracked money, connections, ongoing operations. The people who tried to kill us are still active, Maya. Still eliminating threats, still profiting from death. The screen came to life, displaying a complex network of financial transactions, coded operations, and surveillance photos. Maya recognized some of the location's conflict zones where American interests were supposedly being protected. Last month, 3 journalists investigating corruption in defense contracts died in separate accidents. Daniel continued. 2 weeks ago, a whistleblower preparing to testify before Congress about illegal surveillance programs was found dead of an apparent suicide. He pulled up files on each incident, crime scene photos, police reports, financial records showing suspicious transactions preceding each death. This isn't ancient history, he said quietly. It's happening now. And we may be the only ones. Who can stop it? Because we're the ghosts they think they've already eliminated. Maya stared at the screen, at the familiar patterns of cover-up and elimination she'd been trained to recognize. Her years as a nurse had taught her different. Patterns of healing, of life preserved rather than taken. But she couldn't deny what she was seeing. What exactly does Olivia want us to do? She asked finally. Finish compiling the evidence, verify the connections she's established, and deliver everything to someone who can act on it officially. Daniel pulled up another file. Eleanor Voss, former justice. Department prosecutor. Olivia's been feeding her select information for years, building trust. Voss has the position and credibility to ensure this evidence can't be buried. Maya thought of her patients back in Montana, of the clinic that would be wondering where she was, of the life she'd built that had nothing to do with conspiracy and danger. I have responsibilities, she said softly. People who depend on me. We all made choices after Belgrade, Daniel acknowledged. You found a way to save lives instead of taking them. I respect that, he paused, his expression softening. But we also took an oath, Maya, to protect against all enemies. Some debts don't expire, no matter how much time passes. Maya looked again at the photo of their team, 5 young faces unaware of what lay ahead. 3 now presumed dead, 1 in hiding, and her, the only one who'd tried to build a normal life from the ashes. How long would it take? She asked. To finish what Olivia started? A week, maybe 2. We need to verify her sources, organize the evidence coherently, and make contact with Voss through secure channels. Daniel watched her carefully. After that, it's out of our hands. You could go back to your life in Montana, if that's what you want. If I'm still alive, Maya said bluntly. Daniel didn't contradict her. They both knew the risks. Olivia thought it was worth it. Even dying, she chose this fight. The memory of Olivia in that hospital bed, wasted by cancer but still burning with purpose, settled something in Maya's mind. Her former teammate had spent 15 years of stolen time, pursuing justice while Maya had been hiding in plain sight. 1 week, she said finally. I'll give you 1 week to convince me that what we're doing will actually make a difference. She gestured toward the laptop. Show me everything. As Daniel began explaining Olivia's system, Maya felt something stir within her, a sense of purpose she'd buried along with her former identity. The nurse from Montana was still part of her, but so was the agent who'd sworn an oath. Both had chosen to protect lives, just through different means. Tomorrow, she would call the clinic, request emergency personal leave. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, it would be too late to stop what she and Daniel had set in motion. Outside the storage unit, the night was quiet except for distant traffic. Maya glanced up at the sky, finding it strange to think that the same stars shone over Montana, over Seattle where Olivia lay dying, and over Belgrade where everything had gone so terribly wrong 15 years ago. Some debts never expired. Some oaths couldn't be broken. And sometimes the only way forward was to finally face the past. Maya stared at the ceiling of the motel room, sleep impossible. The events of the day replayed in her mind, finding Olivia alive but dying, the storage unit filled with 15 years of secrets, and Daniel impossibly returned from the dead. She had called the clinic director that morning, requesting emergency leave for a family health crisis. Not entirely a lie, she reasoned. Olivia had been family once. Daniel had booked them adjoining rooms at a nondescript motel outside Tacoma. Paying cash. Old habits returning with startling ease. They had spent the past 12 hours reviewing Olivia's files, the sheer volume of information overwhelming. Bank records, surveillance photos, intercepted communications. Olivia had been meticulous in her documentation. At 4 Maya gave up. On sleep, she showered, dressed, and knocked on the connecting door. Daniel answered immediately, fully dressed and alert. The room behind him was transformed into a makeshift command center, laptop open, files spread across the bed, coffee pot working overtime. You look like you haven't slept, Maya observed. Sleep is overrated, Daniel replied, handing her a cup of coffee. Besides, Olivia's doctor called an hour ago. Her condition is deteriorating faster than they expected. Maya felt a knot form in her throat. How long? Days, maybe hours. We need to move quickly. They returned to the files, Maya focusing on financial transactions, while Daniel mapped connections between key figures. The story that emerged was more disturbing than she had imagined. Shadow network operating within legitimate government channels, redirecting resources, eliminating threats, and accumulating power. This goes beyond what happened in Belgrade, Maya said, stunned by the scale. This is systemic corruption across multiple agencies. Daniel nodded grimly. Belgrade was just one operation where something went wrong. They tried to clean up their mess by eliminating us, but Olivia survived. And she spent 15 years making sure they'd eventually pay for it. By mid-morning, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Chen. Patient asking for you. Critical condition. I need to see her, Maya said, gathering her jacket. She might have information that isn't in these files. It's risky, Daniel warned. If they're watching the hospital, they'd expect me to visit a dying friend, Maya countered. It would look more suspicious if I disappeared right after she contacted me. She checked her reflection in the mirror, noting how quickly she had slipped back into operational thinking. I'll be careful. Daniel's expression softened. I know you will. You were always the most careful of all of us. He hesitated before adding, Tell her I'm keeping my promise. The hospital corridors seemed longer today. The air heavier with antiseptic and dread. Maya found Dr. Chen outside Olivia's room, his expression grave. "We've moved her to comfort care," he explained quietly. "The cancer has spread to her brain. She's been asking for you." Inside, Olivia lay motionless except for the shallow rise and fall of her chest. Her skin had taken on a yellowish cast, her breathing labored. Maya sat beside the bed, taking Olivia's cold hand in hers. "I'm here," she said softly. Olivia's eyes fluttered open, struggling to focus. "Maya," she whispered. "Did you find it?" "Yes, and Daniel. He says he's keeping his promise." A ghost of a smile crossed Olivia's face. "Good. He understands what's at stake." Her fingers tightened around Maya's with surprising strength. "There's something I didn't put in the files, something I couldn't risk writing down." Maya leaned closer. "What is it?" "Section Chief Garland." Olivia whispered. "He wasn't just complicit. He orchestrated everything. Belgrade was his operation from the beginning." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. William Garland had been their direct supervisor, the man who had recruited all of them, who had visited Maya in the hospital after Belgrade. The man who had personally presented her with a commendation for bravery before she'd left the agency. "That's impossible," she breathed. "Garland was the one who warned us about internal corruption. He was investigating it. The perfect cover." Olivia rasped. "He was hunting leaks all right, to silence them. The evidence is in my apartment in Portland. 1874 Riverfront Drive, Unit 305, Security Code 7294. Behind the bathroom mirror, there's a safe. Combination is your brother's birthday." Maya stared at her. "You remembered Michael's birthday after all these years?" "I remembered everything about you," Olivia admitted, her voice barely audible. "That's why I trusted you with this. Even when I couldn't contact you, I knew someday I would need you to finish what I started." Olivia's monitor began to beep erratically. Her breathing grew more labored as she struggled to speak. "Promise me, Maya. Promise me you'll see this through." "I promise," Maya said, gripping her hand tightly. "We'll make it right." "One more thing," Olivia whispered. "The woman in the coffee shop that day in Belgrade, the one who warned us about the ambush, she works for Garland now. She's his right hand. Her name is—" The monitor flatlined before Olivia could finish. Dr. Chen rushed in with a crash team, but Maya already knew it was too late. She stepped back, watching as medical professionals went through the motions of trying to revive someone already gone. Maya slipped out of the room during the commotion. In the hospital corridor, she leaned against the wall, her chest tight with grief and rage. Olivia was gone, truly gone this time. And she had died trying to warn Maya about dangers she still didn't fully understand. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Check the news, now." Maya pulled up a news app to find breaking headlines. Former intelligence officer found dead in apparent suicide. The accompanying photo showed William Garland, the man Olivia had just named as the architect of their betrayal. Maya hurried to her car, checking constantly for surveillance. Her mind raced as she drove back to the motel. Garland's death couldn't be a coincidence, not hours after Olivia had named him. Someone had silenced him, either to protect themselves or to eliminate a liability. Daniel was pacing when she returned to the motel room. "Garland's dead," he said without preamble. "Gunshot wound to the head in his Georgetown home. They're calling it suicide." "It wasn't," Maya replied, recounting Olivia's final words. She said Garland was behind everything, that he orchestrated Belgrade, and she mentioned evidence in her apartment in Portland. Daniel's expression darkened. "This changes everything. If Garland was eliminated, it means someone higher up is cleaning house. We need to move now." They packed quickly, leaving no trace of their presence. Daniel's SUV, purchased with cash under a false name, was waiting in the back lot. As they pulled onto the highway toward Portland, Maya noticed a black sedan that had been parked across from the motel now merging into traffic behind them. "We've got company," she said quietly. Daniel checked the rearview mirror. "I see them. 2 men, government issue if I had to guess." He took the next exit abruptly, weaving through side streets before merging back onto a different highway. The sedan stayed with them, maintaining a careful distance. "They're good," Daniel muttered. "Professional. We need to lose them before we get to Portland," Maya said. "We can't lead them to Olivia's apartment." Daniel nodded, his expression grim. "Hold on." What followed was a masterclass in evasion tactics. Daniel drove like a man possessed, using every trick in the book: abrupt turns, doubling back, changing speeds unpredictably. Maya watched in silent admiration as muscle memory took over. This was the Daniel she remembered: cool, under pressure, always 3 steps ahead. When they finally lost their tail in the warren of industrial areas south of Seattle, Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "You haven't lost your touch. Some skills you don't forget," Daniel replied, checking the mirrors. "Again. But they found us faster than they should have. Someone's coordinating a serious effort to shut this down." "All the more reason to get to Olivia's apartment," Maya said. "Whatever evidence she has on Garland might tell us who's pulling the strings now." The drive to Portland took 3 hours, with multiple vehicle switches and route changes to ensure they weren't followed. By the time they reached Olivia's nondescript apartment building, evening shadows were lengthening across the city. The building was secure but unremarkable, exactly the kind of place where a person could live anonymously. Maya entered the security code Olivia had given her, and they made their way to Unit 305. Inside, the apartment was spartanly furnished, functional, without being personal. No photographs, no mementos, nothing to suggest who lived there. It was the residence of a ghost. "Bathroom mirror," Maya said, heading down the hallway. The mirror swung open to reveal a small wall safe. Maya entered her brother's birthday, April 17, 1982, and felt a pang as the lock clicked open. Even dying, Olivia had remembered the details that mattered to Maya. Inside the safe was a single USB drive and a handwritten letter addressed to Maya and Daniel. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she unfolded the paper. "If you're reading this, I'm gone," Olivia's neat handwriting stated. "This drive contains everything I couldn't risk storing elsewhere: direct communications between Garland and his superiors, account numbers for funds that financed unauthorized operations, and most importantly, the identity of the woman who has been at the center of this web from the beginning. Her name is Victoria Hayes. She recruited Garland 20 years ago. She authorized the Belgrade operation, and she's currently the Deputy Director of Clandestine Operations at the CIA." Maya looked up at Daniel, who had gone pale. "Victoria Hayes," he repeated. "That can't be right. She was our training officer. She personally signed off on our team's formation, which gave her perfect oversight of everything we did," Maya realized. "She could monitor our activities, direct our missions, and when necessary, eliminate us without raising suspicion." Daniel took the letter, scanning the remaining text. "Olivia says Hayes has been running unsanctioned operations for decades, building a network of loyal operatives who answer only to her. Belgrade was part of a larger initiative to establish black sites and funding channels outside official oversight. And we stumbled onto evidence of it," Maya finished. "That's why they tried to kill us all." They connected the USB drive to Daniel's secure laptop. It contained a wealth of damning information: emails, financial records, operation plans, all pointing to Hayes as the architect of a shadow network within the intelligence community. "This is why Olivia needed both of us," Daniel said as they reviewed the files. "I know Hayes' operational patterns. You know the financial side. Together, we can verify everything here and build an airtight case." They worked through the night, cross-referencing Olivia's evidence with the data they'd already collected. By dawn, they had constructed a comprehensive timeline of Hayes' activities, including her recent cleanup operation that had claimed Garland's life. "She's eliminating loose ends," Maya said, staring at the network they'd mapped on the motel room wall. "Garland was just the first. She'd be looking for anyone else who might have knowledge of Belgrade. Which means we're at the top of her list," Daniel concluded. "We need to contact Eleanor Voss now, get this evidence into her hands before Hayes finds us." Maya nodded, but something was still bothering her. "The woman in the coffee shop," she said slowly. "Olivia was trying to tell me something about her before she died. She said she works for Garland now, or worked for him, I suppose." Daniel frowned. "What woman? In Belgrade?" "The day everything went wrong. A woman approached our table at the cafe, pretended to ask for directions, but slipped me a note warning about the ambush. That's the only reason I was prepared when the shooting started." Recognition dawned in Daniel's eyes. "I remember now. You mentioned her in your debriefing. They never found her." Maya's blood ran cold as the pieces suddenly connected. What if she was Hayes' plant? What if the warning was meant to ensure one of us survived? Someone who could be monitored, who might eventually lead them to anyone else who escaped. "You," Daniel said, understanding immediately. "They let you live so they could watch you, in case Olivia or I ever contacted you. Which means they've probably been monitoring me for 15 years, Maya realized. "My clinic, my home in Montana, none of it is safe anymore." The implications settled over them like a heavy shroud. Maya had believed she'd built a new life, but it had always been conditional, always under surveillance. The freedom she'd thought she'd earned had been an illusion. "We need to warn Eleanor Voss," Daniel said urgently. "If Hayes realizes we're assembling this evidence, she'd target Voss next," Maya finished. "We need to meet with her in person. No electronic communication, nothing that could be intercepted." According to Olivia's files, Eleanor Voss now worked at a private law firm in Washington, D.C., specializing in government accountability cases. Getting to her without being detected would require all their skill and training. They abandoned Olivia's apartment, taking only the essential evidence. Daniel's years in the shadows had equipped him with resources cache, clean identities, transportation networks that operated outside official channels. Within hours, they were on a private charter flight to Baltimore, using credentials that would withstand cursory scrutiny. On the flight, Maya found herself studying Daniel's face in the dim cabin light. The years had changed him new lines around his eyes, a hardness that hadn't been there before. But underneath, she could still see the teammate she'd trusted with her life. "Why did you stay hidden all these years?" she asked quietly. "After you learned Olivia was alive, that it was all a setup, why not come find me?" Daniel was silent for a long moment. "I wanted to," he admitted finally. "But Olivia convinced me it was too dangerous. You had built a real life, Maya, something honest and good. We both agreed that dragging you back into this would put you at risk. So instead you let me believe everyone I cared about was dead." Maya said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. "We did what we thought would protect you," Daniel replied. "But Olivia always said that when the time came, you'd be the one to finish this. She believed in you more than anyone." Maya turned to look out the window at the darkness below. "I'm not the same person she knew. I've spent 15 years healing people, not hunting them." "Maybe that's exactly why it has to be you," Daniel said softly. "You remember what matters. The rest of us, me, Olivia, we've been living in shadows for so long. Sometimes it's hard to remember what we're fighting for." In Baltimore, they switched to ground transportation, taking a circuitous route to Washington, D.C. They arrived in the capital as morning traffic was beginning to build, the city coming alive with the business of government. Eleanor Voss's law firm occupied the top floors of a sleek building near DuPont Circle. Security was tight but designed for corporate threats, not former intelligence operatives. Daniel and Maya gained access through a service entrance, using maintenance credentials that Daniel had somehow acquired during their journey. They located Voss's office on the 12th floor. The distinguished attorney was already at her desk despite the early hour, reviewing documents with focused intensity. She looked up with mild surprise when they entered without knocking, closing the door behind them. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone professional but wary. "Eleanor Voss," Daniel said. "My name is Daniel Reed. This is Maya Winters. Olivia Blackwood sent us." Voss went completely still, her expression unchanging except for a slight widening of her eyes. "Olivia Blackwood has been dead for 15 years. Not quite that long," Maya replied, placing a flash drive on the desk. "She died 3 days ago, cancer, but before she did, she made sure we would find you." Voss picked up the drive cautiously. "What is this?" "Everything," Daniel said simply. "Financial records, operational details, communication logs, evidence of a shadow network operating within the intelligence community, led by Victoria Hayes." Voss's professional composure cracked slightly at the name. "Deputy Director Hayes? You're making an extremely serious accusation against one of the most powerful women in the intelligence community." "We know," Maya said. "That's why Olivia spent 15 years building an airtight case. That drive contains verifiable evidence of illegal operations, misappropriated funds, and multiple assassinations ordered by Hayes, including William Garland 3 days ago." Voss connected the drive to a standalone computer, one not linked to the firm's network. As she reviewed the files, her expression grew increasingly grave. "This is comprehensive," she acknowledged, "but making it actionable will require extraordinary measures. Hayes has connections throughout government, allies in Congress, sources in law enforcement. Olivia believed you could navigate those challenges," Daniel said. "She said you've been building your own network of accountability advocates for years." Voss studied them both carefully. What Olivia believed and what's actually possible may be different things. This evidence needs verification, witness testimony, and institutional backing to withstand the pushback it will generate. "We can provide verification," Maya said. "Daniel and I were there in Belgrade. We witnessed the operation firsthand. And we've spent the past 3 days connecting all the dots in Olivia's research, which makes you witnesses, not objective investigators," Voss pointed out. "Your testimony would be undermined as revenge-seeking former agents with personal grudges." Maya felt frustration building. "So what are you saying? That all of Olivia's work, everything she sacrificed, was for nothing?" Voss shut down the computer and removed the drive. "I'm saying that taking down someone like Hayes requires more than evidence. It requires strategy. And right now, my greatest concern is keeping both of you alive long enough to testify when the time comes." She stood, retrieving a secure phone from a hidden drawer in her desk. "I have a safe house outside the city. You'll go there immediately while I begin assembling a team we can trust. No electronic devices, no contact with anyone from your past lives." "How long?" Daniel asked. "As long as necessary," Voss replied evenly. "Days, possibly weeks. Building a case like this can't be rushed, especially when the target has the resources Hayes commands." Maya thought of her clinic in Montana, of patients who depended on her, of the quiet life she'd built that now seemed to be slipping away. "Permanently. I need to make one call," she said. "To my clinic director. I can't just disappear without explanation." Voss shook her head. "Any contact with your known associates would create a trail. If Hayes has been monitoring you all these years as you suspect, that's exactly what she'd be watching for." "These are innocent people," Maya insisted. "I have responsibilities." "Your responsibility right now is to stay alive and see this through," Voss countered. "Otherwise Olivia died for nothing." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She Thought of Olivia in that hospital bed, using her final strength to ensure the truth would come out. Of the promise she'd made to a dying woman who had sacrificed everything for justice. Fine, she conceded. But once this is over, I go back to my life. That's non-negotiable. Voss's expression softened slightly. If we succeed, you can have whatever life you choose. If we fail, none of us will have that luxury. The safe house was a nondescript farmhouse an hour outside Washington, surrounded by enough land to spot approaching vehicles. It was sparsely furnished but secure, with reinforced doors, bulletproof windows, and an underground panic room stocked with supplies. Maya stood at the kitchen window, watching the sun set over distant fields. Their journey here had been circuitous and cautious, with multiple vehicle changes and electronic sweeps to ensure they hadn't been tracked. Voss seems competent, Daniel said, joining her at the window. If anyone can navigate the legal and political minefield we're creating, it's her. I just hope it's worth it, Maya replied. 15 years of Olivia's life. Your life in hiding. My life under surveillance. All leading to this moment. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Do you remember why we joined in the first place? The oath we took? Maya nodded. To protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We never specified a time limit on that oath, Daniel said softly. Some commitments don't expire just because our circumstances change. Maya thought of her patients in Montana, of the oath she'd taken as a nurse, to do no harm, to alleviate suffering. Different words, but the same essential promise. To protect those who couldn't protect themselves. What happens if we succeed? She asked. If Hayes is exposed, her network dismantled. Then we've honored Olivia's sacrifice, Daniel replied. And maybe, just maybe, we've made the system a little more accountable. And after? Daniel smiled sadly. After is something I haven't allowed myself to think about for 15 years. One day at a time has been my mantra, but now. He hesitated. Now I find myself wondering if there's a way back to something resembling a normal life. Maya understood the unspoken question. They had once been more than teammates. There had been potential for something deeper before Belgrade shattered everything. Now reunited after 15 years of separate hells, they were different people with shared wounds. One day at a time, she echoed, touching his hand briefly. Let's survive this first, then we'll see what's possible. Outside, darkness settled over the countryside, hiding whatever dangers might be approaching. Inside, two ghosts from a forgotten operation planned their return from the dead and the reckoning that would follow. 3 days passed in tense waiting. Voss called once on a secure line to report progress. She had assembled a small team of trusted Justice Department veterans, now working to verify and organize the evidence into a presentable case. On the 4th morning, as Maya was making coffee, Daniel called her to the secure communications room. Voss was on the line, her voice tight with urgency. We have a problem, she said without preamble. Hayes knows you're alive and working with me. She's activated a special operations team to find you. How? Daniel demanded. We were careful. Someone in my firm is compromised, Voss admitted. I don't know who yet, but information was accessed. You need to move immediately. The safe house may already be compromised. As if to confirm her warning, Daniel's perimeter sensors began to flash red. He checked the security feed to see 3 unmarked SUVs approaching from the main road. We've got company, he told Voss grimly. Heavy team, professional approach, 8A 3 minutes. There's a fallback location, Voss said quickly. Cabin. In the Shenandoah Mountains. Coordinates are in the secure safe. Take only the essential evidence. I'll meet you there in 24 hours. The line went dead as Daniel was already moving, grabbing go bags they'd prepared for exactly this scenario. Maya retrieved the backup drives containing Olivia's evidence from the hidden safe, securing them in a waterproof pouch. Escape route? She asked, her nurse persona falling away as training took over. Underground tunnel leads to a barn 400 yards east, Daniel replied, checking his weapon. Vehicle stashed inside, fully fueled. If we move now, we can be gone before they secure the perimeter. Maya hesitated. Daniel, if they catch us, they won't, he said with quiet confidence. Not today. Not after everything Olivia sacrificed. To get us here. We finish this, Maya, for her, for all of us. As they descended into the tunnel, leaving the safe house behind, Maya realized something had changed within her. The nurse from Montana was still part of her identity, but so was the agent who had sworn an oath to protect against all enemies. Both were essential aspects of who she had become. And both were now fully committed to seeing this mission through no matter what it cost. The Shenandoah Mountains loomed in the misty distance as Maya and Daniel abandoned their escape vehicle. At a remote trailhead, they had driven through the night, taking back roads and switching vehicles twice to ensure they weren't followed. Now, with 20 pounds of equipment each and Olivia's evidence secured in waterproof cases, they began the 6-mile hike to the fallback cabin. According to the coordinates, it should be just beyond that ridge, Daniel said, consulting a paper map. No electronics, no GPSs. They were ghosts again, moving through the world without digital footprints. Maya adjusted her pack, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility. The crisp mountain air filled her lungs, so different from the antiseptic hospital corridors she'd grown accustomed to. Yet her body remembered this, the controlled breathing, the measured pace, the constant awareness of surroundings. 15 years as a nurse hadn't erased the training that had once been her life. You still move like an operative, Daniel observed as they navigated a steep section of trail. Some things don't fade. Muscle memory, Maya replied. Though, I've been hiking mountains in Montana for years. Different purpose, same skills. The cabin appeared just where Vos had indicated, a small structure nestled against a rocky outcropping, nearly invisible until they were within 100 yards. It was more sophisticated than it appeared from the outside, with reinforced walls, secure communications equipment, and emergency supplies. Vos has been preparing for something like this for years, Daniel noted as they swept the cabin for surveillance devices. This isn't a hastily arranged safe house. This is a long-term contingency plan. For someone who left government service, she seems remarkably well-equipped, Maya agreed, setting up the secure communication system. They spent the afternoon organizing Olivia's evidence, preparing for Vos's arrival. The paper trail was comprehensive financial transactions linking Hayes to unauthorized operations, communications with foreign assets outside official channels, and most damning, direct orders for eliminations disguised as accidents or suicides. She built an empire within the system, Daniel said, studying the network diagram they'd constructed on the cabin wall. Loyal operatives, dedicated resources, operations that answer only to her. It's almost impressive. It's corruption, Maya countered. Power without accountability, the very thing we swore to fight against. Daniel's expression softened. You never lost sight of that, did you? Even after everything, you still believe in the oath we took. I just transferred it to a different arena, Maya said. Protecting people, serving something larger than myself. That didn't change when I became a nurse. The methods did, but not the commitment. Night fell, bringing a penetrating mountain chill. They kept watch in shifts, the old patterns returning with unsettling ease. Maya found herself staring at the stars through the cabin window during her watch, wondering if her life in Montana still existed or if it had already been erased by Hayes's operatives. Dawn brought no sign of Vos. By mid-morning, Daniel's restlessness was evident as he checked and rechecked the communications equipment. She should have been here by now, he said, pacing the small cabin. Something's wrong. Maya was about to respond when the secure satellite phone buzzed not Voss's signature pattern, but an emergency code they'd established. Daniel answered cautiously. "This is Stevens," came an unfamiliar male voice. "Eleanor Voss's security. Detail, she's been compromised. Attempted abduction en route to your location. We extracted her, but she's injured. Hayes knows about the mountain cabin." Daniel's expression hardened. "Authentication code?" "Blackwood 739 Echo." Daniel and Maya exchanged glances. The code was correct. "What's your situation?" Daniel asked. "Secure medical facility in Harrisonburg. Voss is stable but unable to travel. She instructed me to tell you to execute Protocol Avalanche immediately. Do not attempt to reach this location. It's too dangerous. Protocol Avalanche, the final contingency if all other options failed." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. Avalanche meant going public with everything they had, bypassing official channels entirely. "Understood," Daniel said. "Tell Voss we're proceeding as instructed." He ended the call, turning to Maya with grim determination. "Hayes is moving. Faster than we anticipated. If she's targeting Voss directly, she's desperate. Or confident," Maya countered. "Avalanche is risky. Without institutional backing, we're just rogue agents making accusations against a senior intelligence official. We could be discredited, arrested, or worse. That's why Olivia created multiple channels," Daniel said, retrieving a sealed envelope from his pack. "This contains access credentials for secure servers in 3 countries, prepaid for 5 years. If Hayes eliminates us, the evidence still goes public on a timed release." Maya stared at the envelope. Olivia thought of everything. She had 15 years to plan, Daniel replied softly. "While I was hiding and you were healing people, she never stopped fighting. Not for a single day." They packed quickly, taking only the essential evidence and leaving false trails in multiple directions. The descent from the mountain was faster than their ascent, urgency driving their pace. At the base, they found the emergency vehicle Voss's team had left an unmarked SUV with diplomatic plates, less likely to be stopped or searched. "Where to?" Maya asked as Daniel took the wheel. "New York," he replied. "Avalanche protocol specifies multiple media outlets simultaneously. Voss has contacts at the major papers and networks. People who will listen, who can't be easily silenced. That's a 4-hour drive through heavily monitored areas," Maya pointed out. "Hayes will have assets watching all major routes." "Which is why we're not taking major routes," Daniel said, turning onto a narrow Forest Service road. "And we're not going directly to New York." Their journey became a masterclass in counter-surveillance techniques, changing vehicles at prearranged locations, splitting up briefly before reconnecting, using public transportation where they could blend with crowds. Maya marveled at Daniel's thoroughness, at the network of resources he'd maintained during his years in hiding. "You never really left the life, did you?" she asked during a brief stop at a rural gas station. Daniel's expression was unreadable. "I tried at first. Took a job as a security consultant in Thailand. Bought a small house on the coast. But I always kept one eye on the shadows, waiting for them to find me," he shrugged. "Eventually, I stopped pretending and embraced it. Built new identities, established escape routes, maintained resources that couldn't be traced." "That sounds exhausting," Maya said quietly. "It was," Daniel admitted. "But not as exhausting as pretending to be someone I'm not." He studied her face. "What about you? Was Montana real, or just another cover?" The question struck deeper than Maya expected. "It was real," she said after a moment. "The work, the people I helped, that was all real. But I never fully relaxed, never completely trusted. I kept go bags packed, maintained separate bank accounts, practiced escape routes. Part of me was always waiting for the other shoe to drop." "And now it has," Daniel said softly. Now it has, Maya agreed. By nightfall, they had reached the outskirts of New York City. Daniel navigated to a nondescript apartment building in Queens, using a keycard to access a service entrance. Safe house? Maya asked as they climbed 5 flights of stairs, avoiding the elevator. Better, Daniel replied, unlocking a door at the end of a dimly lit hallway. Home base for a network of journalists and whistleblowers. Voss helped establish it years ago as a secure location for sensitive stories. Inside, they found a small but well-equipped operations center, secure computers, communications equipment, and most importantly, a woman in her 30s who introduced herself simply as Morgan. Voss said you might be coming, she said, examining the credentials Daniel provided. Said you had evidence that would bring down walls at Langley. That's one way of putting it, Maya replied, setting down the waterproof case containing Olivia's files. We have documented proof of a shadow network operating within the CIA, led by Deputy Director Victoria Hayes, unauthorized operations, misappropriated funds, targeted assassinations of American citizens. Morgan whistled softly. That's not just walls coming down. That's the whole building. Which is why we need multiple outlets reporting simultaneously, Daniel explained. Too big for anyone to bury, too well documented to dismiss. Morgan nodded. All business now. I can arrange secure meetings with editors from 3 major papers and 2 broadcast networks. All of them have worked with Voss before. All have experience with sensitive intelligence stories. How soon? Maya asked. Tomorrow morning. Early. We'll need to move quickly once Hayes realizes you're in New York. She'll throw everything she has at finding you. Morgan showed them to sparse but secure quarters in the back of the apartment. As Maya set down her pack, the exhaustion of the past week hit her all at once. She sank onto the narrow bed, suddenly overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they were attempting. Having second thoughts? Daniel asked from the doorway. Not about exposing Hayes, Maya clarified. About what comes after. For 15 years, I've been building a life based on healing, not secrets. What happens to that life once we do this? Daniel sat beside her, close but not touching. I wish I had a comforting answer. The truth is, I don't know. Best case, Hayes goes down, her network is dismantled, and we're given some form of protected status. Worst case, we spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, Maya finished. Trading one form of surveillance for another. There's another possibility, Daniel said carefully. If we succeed, if Hayes is truly removed and her network exposed, maybe we get a fresh start. Not going back to our old lives, but building something new, something honest. The implication hung in the air between them. Once, they had been moving toward something more than partnership. Belgrade had destroyed that possibility before it could fully form. Now, 15 years later, surrounded by danger and uncertainty, Maya found herself wondering if second chances were possible. Let's focus on surviving tomorrow, she said finally. Then we can talk about fresh starts. Morning brought a flurry of activity. Morgan had arranged for representatives from the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, and 2 international outlets to arrive in staggered intervals. Each meeting was brief but intense, presenting the evidence, explaining its significance, answering pointed questions about sourcing and verification. Maya watched as hardened journalists reviewed Olivia's meticulously gathered evidence, their skepticism gradually giving way to stunned realization. This is beyond anything we've seen since the Church Committee, the Post editor commented, referring to the 1970s investigation that had exposed widespread intelligence abuses. If verified, this represents a fundamental breach of trust and legal authority. It's verified, Daniel assured him. Every document, every transaction, every communication has been authenticated. Olivia Blackwood spent 15 years building this case precisely because she knew the burden of proof would be extraordinary. By noon, all 5 outlets had agreed to publish simultaneously, a coordinated release scheduled for 6 a.m. the following day. Enough time for final fact-checking, not enough time for Hayes to identify and pressure every outlet involved. "You'll need to disappear until the story breaks," Morgan advised as the last journalist left. "Once Hayes realizes what's happening, she'll deploy everything she has to stop publication." "We have one more task before we go dark," Maya said, retrieving the satellite phone. "We need to check on Voss." The call connected, but instead of Stevens, an unfamiliar voice answered. Maya immediately ended the transmission, her expression grim. "Wrong authentication pattern," she told Daniel. "Either Stevens has been compromised, or that wasn't him to begin with." "Which means Hayes might already know we're in New York," Daniel concluded. "We need to move, now." They were gathering their equipment when Morgan's security system flashed a warning: multiple vehicles approaching. "The building, tactical team deployment patterns." "Back exit," Morgan said sharply, activating what appeared to be a lockdown protocol on her computers. "Tunnel leads to the subway maintenance area. I'll delay them." "Come with us," Maya urged, but Morgan shook her head. "Someone needs to ensure this story breaks, with or without you two. I have protocols for this. Now go." The tunnel was narrow and damp, clearly part of New York's older infrastructure. They moved quickly by flashlight, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them. After what seemed like miles of twisting passages, they emerged through a maintenance door into a deserted subway platform. "Where now?" Maya asked as they blended with the mid-afternoon crowd on the Manhattan-bound train. "We split up," Daniel decided. "Different routes to the contingency point. Less chance of both of us being captured." Maya felt a surge of protest but suppressed it. Tactically, he was right. Emotionally, the thought of separating now, when they were so close to completion, felt unbearable. "The boathouse at Central Park," Daniel continued. "Midnight. If either of us doesn't make it, the other proceeds with the final backup plan. The final backup: Olivia's deadman switch. Evidence released to international media and law enforcement simultaneously, triggered by a failure to enter cancellation. Codes at specified intervals." "I'll be there," Maya promised as the train approached the next station. She squeezed his hand briefly. "Be careful." "You too," he replied, his eyes conveying everything words couldn't. Maya spent the next 8 hours in constant motion, changing clothing in department store fitting rooms, moving between crowded tourist areas where surveillance was difficult, avoiding cameras whenever possible. As darkness fell, she made her way cautiously towards Central Park, using indirect routes and frequent backtracking to identify any tail. The boathouse was dark and locked for the night, but Daniel had specified a maintenance access point on the north side. Maya approached cautiously, every sense alert for signs of an ambush. The door was unlocked as promised, the interior pitch black except for a small red indicator light on a security panel. "Daniel?" she called softly, stepping inside. A figure moved in the darkness. I was beginning to worry. Relief flooded through Maya as Daniel emerged from the shadows. He looked exhausted but intact, no visible injuries or signs of pursuit. "Any problems?" she asked. "Nothing I couldn't handle," he replied. "But Hayes's people are all over the city. They know we're here. They just don't know where." "Morgan?" Daniel's expression darkened. "No word. But the media outlets confirmed they're still proceeding with publication. 6 hours from now, Hayes's world implodes." "If we survive that long," Maya said, checking the secure satellite phone. "No contact from Voss or her team. We're on our own." They settled into defensive positions with clear sightlines to all approaches. The hours crept by in tense silence, broken only by periodic security checks and whispered updates. At 3 a.m., Daniel's perimeter alarm vibrated silently. "Motion." Detected on the path leading to the boathouse. Multiple signatures, he whispered, checking the thermal scanner. Professional approach pattern. Maya felt her heart rate accelerate, then deliberately slowed her breathing. Options? Water exit, Daniel replied, nodding toward the rear of the boathouse where emergency boats were stored. Lake crossing, then east side exit. They're converging from the west and south. They moved silently, years of training overriding the decade and a half of civilian life. Daniel prepared a small diversion, timed lights and sounds that would trigger 2 minutes after they departed, hopefully drawing attention away from their actual escape route. The small electric maintenance boat slid silently into the dark water. Daniel navigated by memory and feel, keeping the craft close to the shadows along the shoreline. Behind them, lights suddenly flared in the boathouse, the diversion activating right on schedule. They had almost reached the eastern shore when spotlights swept the water searchers, responding to the diversion but extending their search perimeter. Maya ducked lower in the boat as Daniel cut the already quiet motor, letting momentum carry them the final distance to shore. "They're boxing us in," Daniel observed as they secured the boat and moved cautiously toward the park exit. "Standard containment protocol. Which means they don't know exactly where we are," Maya replied. "Otherwise they'd concentrate forces instead of spreading them." They reached the park's perimeter wall just as shouts erupted behind them. Their abandoned boat had been discovered. Daniel boosted Maya up and over the 8-foot stone wall, then followed with surprising agility for a man his age. They emerged onto Fifth Avenue, surprisingly busy even at this pre-dawn hour. Taxis cruised for fares, early morning delivery. Trucks made their rounds, and the occasional jogger appeared despite the darkness. "Public transportation is too risky," Daniel said as they walked briskly downtown. "They'll have people watching the stations." "So we walk," Maya replied. 3 miles to Morgan's backup location. "We can make it before the story breaks." They maintained a steady pace, moving with purpose, but not enough urgency to attract attention. Behind them, police sirens wailed as the search expanded beyond the park, but the city was large, and 2 people who knew how to blend in could disappear into its fabric. The backup location was a small apartment above a 24-hour diner in the East Village. As they approached, Maya noticed something that made her blood run cold. A black SUV with government plates parked half a block away, 2 men in suits waiting inside. "We've been compromised," she whispered, pulling Daniel into the shadow of a doorway. "They're waiting for us." Daniel assessed the situation with practiced efficiency. "Fire escape, rear of the building. If we can reach the roof, we can cross to the adjacent structure." They circled the block, finding the alley access unguarded. The fire escape was old but solid, their ascent silent and swift. From the rooftop, they could see more vehicles arriving. Hayes was committing significant resources to capturing them before the story broke. 2 hours until publication, Daniel said, checking his watch. "We just need to stay free until then." They crossed 3 rooftops before finding an unlocked access door leading into a residential building. Moving quietly through the sleeping structure, they emerged onto a different street, temporarily clear of searchers. "We need to find somewhere. Public but not obvious," Maya said. "Somewhere with witnesses but not heavy security." Daniel nodded. "I know a place." He led her to an all-night diner 10 blocks away, the kind of establishment where staff minded their own business and patrons didn't ask questions. They took a booth in the back with clear sight lines to all entrances and exits. "Coffee?" asked a tired-looking waitress. "2 cups," Maya replied. "And whatever breakfast special you're serving." As the waitress shuffled away, Daniel connected a secure tablet to the diner's public Wi-Fi, a risk, but a necessary one at this point. "Checking publication status," he explained, using multiple proxy servers to mask their location. "If Hayes has managed to pressure any of the outlets into delaying." The screen loaded, showing the home pages of the 5 news organizations they'd briefed. No breaking stories yet. It was still 45 minutes before the agreed publication time. Nothing yet, Daniel said, shutting down the connection. But no reports of suppression either. As far as I can tell, we're still on track. They ate in silence. The greasy diner food oddly comforting after days of stress and minimal sustenance. Maya found herself studying Daniel's face in the harsh fluorescent lighting, the new lines around his eyes, the touch of gray at his temples, the watchful vigilance. That had become second nature. "What?" he asked, catching her gaze. "Just thinking about what comes next," she replied. For 15 years, Olivia lived for this moment. What do we live for after it's done? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "I've been asking myself the same question. I'm not sure I know how to live without looking over my shoulder anymore. Maybe we learn together," Maya suggested, surprising herself with the proposal. "After this is over, after Hayes is exposed and Olivia's work is complete, maybe we find out who we are when we're not running or hiding." Hope flickered in Daniel's eyes, quickly, tempered by caution. "Let's see if we survive the next hour first." At precisely 5:56 a.m., Daniel reconnected to the Wi-Fi, this time without proxies. Speed mattered more than security. Now either they'd succeeded or they'd failed. One by one, the headlines began to appear. Shadow operations. CIA deputy director implicated in illegal activities. 15-year cover-up. Intelligence official linked to unauthorized assassinations. Exclusive. Inside the CIA's secret power. Structure. The stories were breaking simultaneously across all platforms. Exactly as planned. Comprehensive and devastating. Photos of Victoria Hayes appeared alongside documents from Olivia's files. The evidence laid out for the world to see. "We did it," Maya whispered, scanning the articles. "Olivia did it." Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Turn on the TV, any channel." The diner had a small television mounted in the corner, typically showing early morning news programs to disinterested patrons. Daniel asked the waitress to increase the volume as breaking news banners appeared. Across the screen, "We're following a developing story this morning," the anchor announced. FBI agents have entered CIA headquarters at Langley with warrants related to allegations against Deputy Director Victoria Hayes. We're also receiving reports that Hayes was taken into custody at her home approximately 30 minutes ago. Maya stared at the screen in disbelief. 30 minutes ago? That's before the stories even broke. Someone moved preemptively, Daniel realized. Someone with enough authority to act on the evidence before it went public. His phone buzzed again. "Safe to come in now. Operation complete. Justice served. EV. Eleanor Vass." She had survived and apparently orchestrated the final act from behind the scenes. As the news continued to unfold on the television, Maya felt a weight lifting, not just the immediate danger, but the burden of 15 years living in the shadow of Belgrade. Olivia's mission was complete. The truth was out. Justice, long delayed, was finally being served. What now? Daniel asked quietly. Maya reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "Now we honor our promises. To Olivia, to ourselves, to the oath we took." "And then?" Daniel prompted when she paused. "Then we find out what it means to live without looking over our shoulders," Maya finished. "Together, if that's what you want." Daniel's fingers tightened around hers. "I think I'd like that." Outside the diner windows, the sun was rising over New York City, casting long shadows but promising light. For Maya and Daniel, it wasn't just a new day, it was the dawn of a life they'd thought forever lost to them. A life beyond secrets, beyond running, beyond the shadows of Belgrade. Olivia had given them this chance with her sacrifice. Now it was up to them to make it count. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.